Hello everyone. In this video we're going to continue learning about SQL queries and how to effectively write them. But in this video we're going to be using a rather larger database. And we're going to learn a few more things about writing effective queries. So let's get to it. So the very first thing we will go over in this video is this new database. It's Chinook database that you will have the access to its file, and this database, as you can see, has many more tables as the first one. So here we have the database of music shop. We have the customers, the employees, and also you have tracks and sales, which is in terms of invoices and artists, genre of the musics, and all of those things come together to create this database. So let's sort of like pick up where we left off from the previous video with an example. So in this example, we want to list the first name and last name and city of country of customers who has ever purchased Metallica. So before I ask you to give this a try, let's look at the UML of this database together. So of course the information about the customer are going to come from this table right here, but we want to connect that with an artist, and the information from the artist names is going to come from this table. So you have to connect from all the way from customers through invoices, invoice items, tracks, albums, and then finally artists, to be able to see or find the customer's name and other information that has ever purchased Metallica. So give it a try before continuing to watch this video. So to solve this, let's go ahead and first connect to our database. The first thing we need to do, the database that is here is from previous video that we connected to the customer sales data. But now we want to connect to a new database. So we add a database, and then we find that database in our files in our system. And then we double click and we say OK. And then SQLite will connect that database for you. So if you double click on it, you will see all of those tables that we saw in the UML. So let's go ahead and create a query. And once you create this query, you can run and see everything is working. So for the sake of simplicity, I have copied all of the, prepared and copied all of the queries that we'll be using in this video. And of course, we'll go through these one by one. So the first one, we had to create that, inner join with a couple of different tables. As you remember, we had customers from this table, and our if condition or our where conditional is going to come from artists. So we have to join all these tables to be able to do that select. So that's what we have. That's what we have done here. So we have inner join from customer to invoices, then invoices to invoice item, then tracks, albums, and artists, and then artist names Metallica. So once we run this, now we have the name of all of the customers that has ever purchased Metallica in our system. So after sort of like picking up where we left off, we did this very effective query by what we had learned in the previous video. But here we want to sort of like build up on our skill set on how to write effective queries. The next thing we will learn here is the operation or the function like. The operation like is very effective in writing queries that have strings. You want to sort of create a pattern or find a pattern in strings, and you want only a specific pattern of a string in a specific column to be brought for you. So basically you say, I want a column with a specific pattern to be brought for me. It's sort of like a more sophisticated conditional on strings that SQL provides for you. So the strings, the patterns that you can create, you can use either %sign or underscore sign to create them. So for example, when you say where customer name like a %sign, you so basically are saying you want all of the records in the data that the customer name start with A. So it doesn't matter what comes after A, as long as there is an A, you want to see it. But here, what you say is you want the customer name to finish with A. So it doesn't matter, as long as there is an A at the end, you want that record to be included. If you have %sign before and after, it means you want that to be somewhere in there. It doesn't matter if it's in the beginning, in the middle, or at the end. You want to have this word in that customer name. If you specify like this, you want the R letter to be the second letter in the customer name, and so on and so forth. You can use the combination of percentage and underscore to create different patterns. So for example, here in the first query, here we want to see the customer that comes from countries that their names start with I. So let's see how it works. Their names start with I. So once we run this, now we see we have countries Ireland, Italy, and India. So these are the 4 countries that their first names start with I. We could change things up. We could, let's say, go with F, and we will get different answer. Now we have France and Finland. Or we could go with U, and we have mostly, only USA and United Kingdom. So let's another example. For a customer whose city name ends with N. So here we are saying the city name ends with N. So once we run this, now if we like this city name, all of them are ending with N, and that's how we were able to do this. Or we could do one that the name of the track, we want to find the name of tracks that has the word love in them. So let's go ahead and run this. And there are actually so many of them, and if you pay attention to the track name, there is always the word love in there. And sometimes even lover, but still, because it's in there, you have it. So if you wanted to make sure that the word love is in there, not love and other possible combination, you could specify this. And once you run this, now only the ones that have the word love in them, or have the word love in them, are going to be specified. So only the word love. Or if love and lover are sort of the same thing for you, you can just go back to how it was. Another example, you want to check the employees that their birth month is month of October, month number 9. So here, birth month is in month 9. So we could use the power of the like operator to specify the specific month that we want to be searching. So we have when we select all the employees, let's select all the employees. So this is all the employees, and we can see that it starts with year and then month and then day, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we don't care what year it is, so that's why we have slash. But we always know the number of years are going to be 4. So we have 4 underscore and then dash 09 dash. This is what we want for all of the months to be. So once I run this, everything that has 4 something and then 09 dash is going to be shown here. So once I run this, now I only get that one employee that his birth month is in that month. So let's look at an example. Write a query that count the number of customers who live in a zip code in the US that start with 95 and doesn't matter what, and that they're from US. So give this a try before continuing to watch this video. So all you need to do to answer this is really use a where condition and also like. So you have something postal code, but we know the postal code in the US is in a specific format. So we make sure the country is the USA, and then we say the postal code that are like, or zip code that are like 95, and then percentage sign. That means like 95 and whatever starts after it. So once we run this, now we know there is only one customer that is in that zip code. Okay, so now let's learn another function in writing a SQL query. Group by. Group by is exactly the same function in pandas that we learned, and it's just the same thing that SQL also have. So here it's basically the same thing. You're basically grouping by some rows of your data based on a specific columns. So for example, the way the order of things is very important for Excel. So where always comes before group by, and then if you want to order something, it comes after group by. So for example, I want to count the number of customers in each country, and for me to be able to do that, I should group by my customer based on country and then count the number of customer ID. And that is going to help me get that answer. So let's go ahead and see how it works. So I have 13 customer in USA, and then I have 8 customer from Canada. As you can see, I have also ordered the data based on the country count. Actually, country count is not a really good name. I'm going to change that to customer count. In SQL, when you have a calculated column, you can change the name by using the function by keyboard as. So basically, I'm knowing this as customer count. So once I run this, now I have the customer count of those countries. Let's take an example. List customers' name and their total number of tracks they have purchased, that the tracks have the word love in their title. Give this example a try before continuing to watch this video. So we're going to need a few things to be able to do this query. First of all, we need customers information, and also we need the tracks information and the word love in them. So if we go back to the UML, customers information are here, and the tracks information are all the way to in here. And the word love should be searched in this track name. So first things we need to do is sort of create this connection in our select in our query. So that's this connection that we need to create. So once we have this connection created, now we know what type of tracks we are looking for. We use a function like to say we only want these patterns. There is the word love in them, and this is coming from track name. So this is one part of the query. But going back to the query, we want to list customer name and their total number of tracks. So we want to count the number of tracks that they have purchased and they have the word love in them. So we need to group by the data based on the customer and count the number of tracks that have the word love in them. That's why we group by our customers and then count the track ID. And I know that all of these tracks have the word love in them because of this conditional here. And I call them as track counts. And I order them by track count. So once I run this, now I know these are the customers that have purchased 4 tracks that have 4 tracks that have the word love in them, and so on and so forth. Let's look at another example. Come up with a list that shows all the genres in the database and the number of times a track with each genre has been purchased. So give this a try before continuing to watch this video. So to be able to do this query, we need to have genre information or genre data and also track data. Let's go back to the question. The genre data and the number of times a track with each genre. So we need genre and also track. So we need to create that connection, inner join. And once we have that, we need to group by on the genre and count the number of track for them. So let's see how it works. So this is our, that inner join we talked about. So you are inner joining genre with tracks, and also you are adding invoice items. The reason that you are adding invoice items is that the number of times each track with genre has been purchased. So you want to connect to the purchased information, which comes from the invoice item. That's why we have also included the invoice item. And what we are counting is the invoice line ID, the number of times there has been an invoice for the tracks with each specific genre. And we of course group by the genre ID, and the purchase count for each genre ID is ordered by descending. So we can figure out the most popular genre based on the number of tracks from each genre purchased. So once we run this, we'll see that rock, Latin, and metal are the most popular genres. Okay, let's continue learning about another very important function in SQL query, and that one is having. So having clause is basically a where clause or like a conditional clause for your aggregate function when you have group by. Basically because you cannot have 2 where clause, because sometimes you need a where clause before grouping by your data, and then sometimes you need after having done that aggregation, you need this having function. So of course having also always comes after the group by, where comes before the group by. So for example here, we want to only list the countries that have more than 3 customers in the database. So we do the group by based on the country, and then we count the customers from that country, and then we maybe say having country count greater than 3. So we are doing that conditional on the aggregated part of the select or query, and that's why we're using having. So let's go ahead and run this and see what we get. So once we run this, we will see that USA, Canada, Brazil, France, and Germany are the ones that have more than 3 customers in this database. Very simple having. So let's look at an example and see how we can work with that. So list countries, all the countries that have more than $50 total amount of sales coming from them. So give this a try before continuing to watch this video. The key to solve this query is to know what you're looking for. Of course, you're looking for country and customers and purchases. So the country comes from customers, but how much purchase comes from the invoices and the invoice ID, because you have the unit price and the quantity there. So by connecting customer with the invoice items, you can calculate the total sales coming from each country. And of course, you can do a group by on the country and then see the countries that have more than $50. So let's give it a try, see how we can do it. So of course, we have that inner join that we talked about, the invoices with the customers, and then we are grouping by country, and then we are multiplying unit price by quantity and doing the summation of all of them, and we call them sales. And the countries that have more than 50 sales, we want them to be shown. So once we run this, now we have USA, Canada, France, Brazil, Germany, United Kingdom, Czech Republic, Portugal, and India with more than $50 total sale from those countries. Let's look at another example. List all customers from countries that has more than 50 total sales. It's a very similar example than the previous. Give this a try before continuing to watch this video. So the first thing you need to do for this query is figure out the countries that have more than 50 sales from them. And you can do that by this query. So let me sort of like bring this outside this query and run this separately. And only Canada and USA has more than 200 in sales. Actually, what we have here is 50 total sales. So we change this to 50, and this is basically the same as what we had earlier, but it's minor changes because we are only interested to look at the country. We are not interested to know the numbers. So we create that list of countries that have that using the group by and the conditionals and having, and then we sort of like look at this as a list and include this here, include this list here, and then we say, okay, what are those customers that are from these countries with these more than these sales? So once we run this, these are the list of customers that we are interested in.